Okay, here's a question that I was asked recently by a friend, and that was, which do you think is the best decade, or was the best decade that you've lived in, or was the best decade ever, I think he said. And for me, without a doubt, and this is going to be controversial, I'm going to say the 1980s. Now, you know I'm going to get loads of comments going, "Oh, 1980s, you mad? They had the rubbish haircuts in the 80s and music was rubbish and everything was rubbish about the 80s and the fashion was terrible." Well, firstly, in defence of that, I've still got a rubbish haircut now, you know. I've never been fashionable, so that doesn't bother me. As for the music, no, it wasn't. Yeah, 80s rock literally rocked, yeah. You know, you had Scorpions, you had Bon Jovi, you had so many, Queen, I can't remember any of them now, to be honest, but yeah, loads of big rock bands, their songs will be played forever. Now, I know older people are going to go, yeah, but what about, you know, the 60s and 70s, what about the Beatles, eh? What about the Beatles? Personally, I'm not a big fan of the Beatles, and again, that's controversial, but I'm not. It's just not my sort of music, and I thought they were a bit too nicey-nicey, to be honest. AC/DC, there you are, there's another one, another band. But it wasn't really the music that made it the best decade for me. It was partly the music, but it was, well, obviously I grew up in the 80s, and for me a big thing growing up in the 80s was films. I love films now, you know, and a lot of my favourite films are from the 80s. Now, my favourite film of all time is, and you know, people are going to laugh at this, but it's actually Ghostbusters, yeah? That's my favourite film of all time, and I mean the original, not the crappy recent one, you know. I actually got almost into an argument with someone at work the other day, because just before the new Ghostbusters film was coming out, I was talking, you know, in a lesson, and one of the kids said, "Are you looking forward to the new Ghostbusters?" And I said, "No." Because they've replaced all the sort of Ghostbusters guys with just 4 women, and I don't think it's going to work. At which point someone said, "That's really sexist." And I said, "Why is it sexist?" And she said, "Because, you know, you can't just say one word because it's women." And I said, "No, that's not what I meant." You know, and I had to sort of explain myself in front of the class. And yeah, it was a bit uncomfortable, to be honest, a bit uncomfortable, but you know, I thought, oh, what the hell. And you know, my reason for saying it was the fact that Ghostbusters works as a film on many different levels, right? Even now, in 2016, the effects in Ghostbusters are still pretty cool. They've aged a little bit, but they're still cool, yeah? Slimer still looks cool. Zool looks cool. Zool looks cool. Zool's too cool for school. And that was good, wasn't it? Alright, it wasn't. You know, and the Hellhounds, and the people in it were brilliant. They had Sigourney Weaver in it, who looked utterly amazing, who I completely fell in love with. They had Bill Murray, who's a comedy god, Dan Aykroyd, another comedy god. Harold Ramis, who, you know, wrote it with Dan Aykroyd. Amazing, so talented. And you know, without those guys in it, and obviously Winston, who was kind of the straight man, wasn't he? Without them, it's not the same film, yeah? Not remotely. But, you know, the thing I loved about Ghostbusters was those guys together, that chemistry, and the fact that they had that buddy movie thing going on, that's what made Ghostbusters, yeah? You can't just bring a franchise back, put different people in it and call it Ghostbusters. It's not Ghostbusters. It's a film about Lady Ghostbusters or some other people, yeah? It's like kind of when they make a Terminator film but they don't put Arnie in it, yeah? Arnie is the Terminator franchise. Without Arnie, there is no Terminator franchise. It's just a robot killing film. You can disagree with that, I don't care. But yeah, so anyway, Ghostbusters, my favourite film from the 80s. But other films I love from the 80s, the Indiana Jones films, 80s. One of my favourite films of all time, E.T. Yeah, I had an argument with my sister actually about E.T. because well, I don't even know if it did come out at the same time, but you know, in the dark recesses of my mind, E.T. came out at the same time as Annie, I think. And I've got this vague memory of us arguing outside the cinema because it was my sister's birthday. Her birthday's May the 9th and mine's May the 29th. And it was her birthday, so for a family treat we all decided to go to the cinema. My parents took us to the cinema and I was so excited because, you know, I knew my sister would want to see E.T. And guess what? She wanted to see bloody Annie. Yeah, Annie. The gingery, curly-haired orphan, horrible, nasty, nicey child who wants to be adopted by Daddy Bloody Starbucks. God, I hated that. And you know, I think I think he was called Starbucks. He wasn't the owner of a coffee branch. He was just this bald guy who, you know, I don't know, rich bald guy who wanted to adopt this horrible singing orphan. Personally, I'd have left her in the orphan house. But, you know, so instead of seeing E.T., which was like one of the best films ever, I had to watch Annie. And in fact, I cried so much. I cried throughout the whole film. I know, it's pathetic, isn't it? So much so that my parents actually took us again the next night so I could go and see E.T. Now, if I look that up, my memory is probably so messed up that, you know, they didn't even come out at the same time. So it might have been another film. But in my head, yeah, I cried because I had to go and see Annie. Anyway, so E.T. was another one. Now, a couple of the Star Wars films also came out in the 80s. I know the original one was like 1977 or something. But the Gremlins films, the 80s, the Goonies, the 80s. I actually liked the Cocoon films. They came out in the 80s. Most people hate them. Same with Police Academy. I liked the Police Academy films. They were rubbish and they don't hold up now. They're terrible films. But, you know, they're all, you know, part of my childhood, and I guess that's probably why I love the 80s so much. And aside from that, I grew up in the 80s, which for me was an amazing time to grow up because of video games. You know, I've got such good memories of playing, you know, Pac-Man and Space Invaders, which I know came out much before the 80s, I think. But, you know, that's when I played them. And I remember I played, I think it was RoboCop on the Mega Drive. I think that was the 80s, but I've got really good memories of that as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, all just really, really great games. Oh, Commando as well. Commando was amazing. It was kind of like a run and gun game where you'd go up the screen. It's kind of vertical scrolling. And Mercs, that was another one. That was a vertical scrolling game. And Streets of Rage on the Mega Drive. And Altered Beast. And, oh my God. Golden Axe. That was a fantastic game. And, you know, they ruined it. It's been ruined. And I've got, you know, I think I've got the last Golden Axe that came out, which is Golden Axe Beast Rider, which I haven't even played yet, but I just bought it because I wanted to own a Golden Axe game, the sort of last one. I hope there's more Golden Axe games, and I hope they kind of go back to how they used to be. But for me, the 80s is just the best. Let me know what you think.